Hello and welcome to the inaugural edition of the Bruce and Bob Show. I'm Bob Mueller with News 2 here in Nashville. This is Bruce Dobie, Nashville media entrepreneur. We're here to tell you a little bit about politics, give you a little inside look behind the scenes at the state capitol. We've covered politics together for a long time. You as a reporter with the Nashville Banner. I was in Chattanooga covering the '78 governor's race. So we got a little bit of history here, and what we're trying to do is give you maybe a little bit of insight. Bring some guests in, talk to folks who are dealing with politics, dealing with elections, dealing with issues on Capitol Hill. Talk a little bit about what's your idea of your vision for the show.
Well, I think between us we've got something like 7 decades of experience talking to people.
Like I said, I've been here since Ray Blanton said I will take no negative questions. So we know it's been a while.
Yeah, and it's always a joy working with you, Bob, because you are in the thick of things and knowledgeable about politics. And I feel as if every day I talk to people about what's going on in politics, and so behind the scenes, I think between us, we kind of know, generally speaking, what's going on, and it's going to be fun to speak to an audience about local politics, not just local, but state and federal as well.
And as a reporter, as an entrepreneur, as a former reporter, former owner of the Nashville scene, editor of the Nashville scene, we all have contacts in this city over the last 30 years. Folks, movers and shakers we know. But hopefully we'll get in here to talk about their needs and wants, what they expect on Capitol Hill, and social issues that are taking place. Especially this year, we'll touch on some issues, give you an idea of conversations. You know, the Bible bill. The Bible is the official state bill. The governor is opposed to this. There are folks with deep beliefs that think this is the right thing to do. We're not here to criticize people's belief. We're here to give you a look at what's happening there, why they're doing these things, what the implications of these things might be. So the idea is to give you a little bit of behind the scenes look, maybe a little bit deeper look. You know, let's be honest, political coverage isn't what it used to be 20, 30 years ago when we were doing this, when we had reporters on Capitol Hill daily. Every newspaper had 2 or 3 people down there. TV stations had full-time beat reporters there. That doesn't exist anymore.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, and if you think about it, and we may just leap right into talking about what's going on in the state right now, you know, Gannett closed on the acquisition of the Memphis Daily newspaper and the Knoxville Daily newspaper this week. So now they've got a virtual lock on statewide newsprint distribution and newspaper sales in the state of Tennessee. Back in the old days, when I worked at the Banner, we had 3 full-time reporters at Capitol Hill. Right. The Tennessean had 3 full-time reporters. Commercial Appeal had 2. News Sentinel had 1. So now you're talking about potentially having one reporter for Memphis, Knoxville, and Nashville, which is just such a diminution of the role of the press.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that.
To cover this sort of stuff.
It's not, you know, this is business. The world of business is what it is.
Right.
But is it good or bad?
Right.
Well, people can decide that on their own. But this is what's happening, not just to the newspapers. It's happening to television.
Right.
It's already happened to radio.
Right.
Basically, 5 companies
Right.
own every radio station in the country. It's getting that way in television. My TV station is about to be involved with a big merger. We will own 171 TV stations in one company.
Yeah.
And the same thing's happening with newspapers. So here in Tennessee, Gannett, let's not demonize them. Gannett will own the newspapers in 3 of the 4 biggest cities. And as you said, that puts one voice and the opportunity to limit the staff so that instead of 4 or 5 different reporters giving Memphis's angle, Chattanooga's angle, Knoxville's angle,
right.
Nashville's angle, you're going to get one. You're going to get one story, everybody's going to get the same story.
There's going to be
that doesn't give the information to the reader.
No, it really doesn't. And but what you hope for, and here you and I are trying to launch this little show, and we've got all these avenues of distribution at our disposal. We can do this via YouTube. We can throw this up at WKRN.com perhaps, or the NashvilleBanner.com, or
Facebook.
Instagram it, or Facebook, or whatever else. And so, look, the world's our oyster right now, so let's recreate it. And in as much as we've got some insight into what's going on, let's talk about it and let's throw it up and see what happens.
Talk a little bit about some of the issues.
Sure.
People are always watching what's going on in the state legislature. The legislature is probably going to adjourn next week. As we all know, anybody who's covered the legislature that last couple of weeks, that's the danger time, especially in an election year when you get some legislation that social issues done for reasons of popularity, done for reasons of voter interest, not necessarily issues that are really going to take place, but can cause all kinds of problems. What we have going on now here in Tennessee, of course, a couple of bills involving anti-gay legislation in some people's views, protectionist legislation in other people's views. The bathroom bill here in Tennessee, it's happened in 3 other states that I know of, North Carolina, Georgia and Mississippi. Georgia's governor has vetoed it. Tennessee's governor has not said what he's going to do with it yet. He has serious problems. There has been a ruling by the state attorney general that it probably is unconstitutional, but it is moving forward. And what it would do, for the folks who don't know, in public schools, public settings, children that would be transgender children would have to use the bathroom that is registered as their gender on their birth certificate.
Correct. And I noticed that you were having a hard time explaining that, because for people of our generation, this gets confusing. So the gender at the point of your birth would be the bathroom that you would have to use.
Born a boy,
in spite of the fact that
transgender girl, you would have to use the boy's bathroom.
Correct. A couple of interesting things about that, and as the end of the session rolls around, I mean, you begin to realize the limits of a supermajority. And so you've got these Republicans who are just overwhelmingly in control of both houses. Yes. And so you really develop into three parties at that point. You develop into the Tea Party right, extreme part of the right wings of the Republicans, and then the more moderate element of the Republican Party, and then the few Democrats that are there now. And a little bit of background here, the people who have typically been steering the ship up there have been the far
Tea
right.
Party right.
Right,
yes.
And they've been in control. And you saw that with Haslam trying to introduce the health care insure Tennessee. And that's all playing out with this bathroom bill, which is the far right. Meanwhile, the business interests are now leaping in and saying, no, this is crazy. You've got to you've got to defeat this bathroom bill, because this sends a signal to major corporations worldwide that Tennessee is an inhospitable place, and they're a bunch of bigots, and then they're just a prehistoric civilization. And so that's what's going on here. So the moderate Republicans kind of getting all antsy about this, and the far right pushing this, and the Democrats thinking it's all lunacy.
And that's the pressure that's going to probably make a decision one way or the other.
Correct.
When you have Hilton hotels,
right.
when you have folks involved with tourism, bringing people here, when you have Bridgestone, Firestone, when you have Nissan, huge corporations that have their headquarters here saying, wait a minute, we may think about not advancing our product here, we may think about leaving. You saw what happened in Georgia.
Right.
What happened in Georgia, the same threats happened.
Right.
The minute the NFL said that they may take the Super Bowl away from Atlanta, the governor of Georgia vetoed the bill.
Yeah, you're right. Big money talks and big corporations talk. However, they were not successful with Insure Tennessee. You had the Tennessee Hospital Association, you had the doctors, you had the Chambers of Commerce, you had big health. Nashville is healthcare central globally, and they were unable to get through Insure Tennessee.
It was dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival.
Never had a chance.
One of the more embarrassing political spectacles ever to befall any politician. And so there Haslam proposes this thing, and it's dead upon arrival. And so now you have the Speaker of the House, Beth Harwell, trying to gain a measure of respectability by creating a task force to examine a potential new Insure Tennessee. What that looks like, nobody knows. How long it will take, nobody knows. At best, it was a half-hearted attempt for her to gain face with her moderate people who have been just haranguing her to death.
Well, she's been highly criticized.
Highly
she did
criticized.
not stand up for Insure Tennessee and help the governor at least get a hearing on this bill, much less get it passed.
Right. Generally speaking, I think she let this little bird fly out of its cage this week, this task force bird, and it was shot down. I don't think it was well received by most people, but we'll see what comes of it.
Beth Harwell is likely going to run for governor of the state of Tennessee.
She is a probable...
Read it how you want to read it.
Right.
There was a lot of criticism of Beth Harwell saying she has not been an effective leader because she's terrified she's going to offend some people who she needs as constituents in an election 2 years from now in governor. If this health care proposal that the task force, goes nowhere, the Democrats are already calling it a charade. Whether they're right or not, we'll wait and see. But if it goes nowhere, is it worse that she did this and it just blows up and nothing is done, as opposed to Insure Tennessee was dead on arrival. She couldn't revive that thing if she tried. She's trying now. This could be another major failure on her resume.
She's staring at failure everywhere. She's staring at failure on her right. She's staring at failure on her left. Look up dilemma in the dictionary. She's trapped in an awful dilemma.
Talking about Beth Harwell, her run for governor of the state of Tennessee, and let's be honest, she would probably be one of the lead contenders, very popular, very knowledgeable, been in state government a long time, but has been receiving a lot of criticism for not showing leadership on some of these issues that Governor Bill Haslam was behind, specifically in Tennessee.
No, she's in an awfully difficult spot, and her typical base is that moderate lane right down the middle for the Republicans. But she's going to get hammered by the right wingers, and she's going to get hammered by the lefties, and so she's just in an awful spot. It does not bode well for her when she decides to run for governor.
Bill Haslam is a moderate Republican governor.
Right.
He may not like that.
And
That's what he
see
is.
how far that
Beth
got.
Harwell would be the same moderate kind of Republican.
Correct.
Can that label, if that sticks, be elected in this current condition of the state of the Republican Party?
I say
who
no.
goes to the polls?
Look at the presidential primary and see what Donald Trump did in this state, and look at what Ted Cruz did, and look at what Kasich did. I mean, this was an overwhelming Trump state. So this state right now of the Republican voting electorate is way right. That does not bode well for her. That does bode well for a Diane Black.
And that's the
Diane
other
Black
part of the conversation.
Right,
She's probably going to run too.
Yeah, let's morph into that. I mean, a lot of the subtext up at the legislature right now and in circles, local circles, is who is running for governor and who are these candidates, because they're beginning to have to make plans now in the post-Haslam era. On the Republican side, you do have Beth, and then Diane Black is the most intriguing candidate, who is most often seen as...
She can self-fund, as it were.
She can self-fund. Her husband has made a lot of money, and she has made some very right-wing kind of statements. So she doesn't have an exposed right flank. Almost more interesting is what's going on the Democratic side, with Bill Freeman allegedly looking at the race, and Carl Dean not allegedly. I have that on good authority that he is looking at it and looking at it hard. That makes for an interesting contest.
Those two completely different styles, and if you look at those two styles, Carl Dean more studying, more issue-oriented, Bill Freeman more into the crowd, more willing to talk one-on-one with people. Totally different crowd. Bill Freeman probably plays better in rural Tennessee than say Carl Dean would
I think
play.
you're right, yeah.
Academia-wise, Carl Dean's going to do much better probably with city councils and county commissions and those kind of urban areas.
Yeah.
So a totally different dichotomy there.
Yeah.
Back one more time to Diane Black. The interesting thing to me is the Tea Party is challenging Diane Black's seat for Congress with Joe Carr. And here's what I say about this. Joe Carr is a Tea Party favorite, no question about it. He is a conservative, hardcore conservative. So is Diane Black.
Right.
But he's challenging Diane Black, not necessarily to win this time. Because Diane Black, if she runs for re-election, will win.
Yeah.
He's doing this to run when Diane Black runs for governor in 2 years, so that this seat, the 6th seat, stays in the Tea Party.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. And but I mean, Joe Carr. Here's a man who got, what did he get against Lamar Alexander? 44% of the vote, or something astonishing against Lamar Alexander, one of the fathers of the modern Republican Party in the state of Tennessee. Just goes to show how strong that far right is in the state.
So this gives you an idea of our conversation. What we're hoping to bring to this show. Once a week, if it gets more popular, maybe we'll do it more than that. Let's bring in Mike Kelly now, owner of Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse, an institution here in Nashville. And Mike, we appreciate so much you letting us steal your time, steal your booth and your location.
My pleasure.
This has been, since I've been here in 1980, and I know well before that, the place. Movers and shakers come to Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse. Politicians come to Jimmy Kelly Steakhouse. Deals have been cut here. Conversations have been had here. Talk a little bit about the history of not just this restaurant, but politics and the growth of Nashville and what takes place in Nashville happening here at these booths and these tables.
Well, you know, when you talk about politics, you know, today it's become such a dirty word, you know, that everybody's fighting. And what happened here is people got together and worked out a compromise.
Sure.
And that's, you know, it's
That's
much easier. It's just so much easier to do that over dinner when you know somebody is not a bad guy, when you're not standing on the floor, you know, in front of cameras trying to, you know, pound home your idea, where you can sit here and talk as reasonable people and work things out.
Do those conversations, do those meetings still take place? Because obviously rules have changed. There's been all kinds of you know, lobbyist rules, and people can't buy your dinners anymore unless it's recorded. Has that changed the dichotomy?
Unfortunately, it really has. It has, because, you know, no matter
for the good
what
or for the
people,
worse?
I think it's for the worse. Again, this idea, if I'm worried about a state legislator selling his vote over a steak dinner, then I don't want him up there. I think that, you know, again, I think there was too much emphasis on that. And so what happened is, again, because people weren't dining together, weren't being friends, talk about their kid's baseball game,
Sure.
or, you know, those are the things that have really been lost, where people, you know, now they go home. Now occasionally, there's certainly still.
You think progress was made? You think there were agreements made here that benefited the state of Tennessee that probably don't happen anymore?
Absolutely. Now, luckily, some of those deals still get made, but again, it's just the whole form of the body of the legislature changed tremendously because people weren't breaking bread together at night, you know, and having a drink and, you know, talking about how to work out a problem which is best for the state of Tennessee.
You know, you hear a lot because
Yeah.
you're here and people have had a couple of drinks and they're talking, and Mike, come over here and let me tell you something. What do you think of Megan Berry these days, our new mayor? She's been in office for 6 months. I know she eats dinner here often, and the former mayor's been in here a lot. What you're thinking of? Because you probably had some questions about her. You represent more. I would characterize you as being part of the business establishment wing of the party of the city.
Well,
and she was a little to the left of that.
She was a little to the left. You know, I don't think it could have come off any better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's really hit a home run, particularly having to come in after Carl Dean, which is clearly going to go down as one of the most popular mayors we've had in modern times.
Was Carl Dean the biggest surprise mayor this city has ever seen? In that, not that he wasn't qualified, but no one really knew what he was getting. Here he was, this public defender, and there were these council people and these kind of establishment people running against him, and Carl Dean comes out of the pack and proves to be this terrific leader when the flood hit, a brilliant tactician, middle of the biggest recession we had, built a convention center, proves to be perfect, the timing was right, the prices were cheaper. So was he a big surprise to the business community?
I think he was very much a surprise. People didn't know what they were getting. And again, as you said, he's proven to be just this incredible leader. And again, it's because Carl just deals with things honestly. He doesn't have a hidden agenda. You know, you sit down with Carl, you talk about what's going on, and he tells you what he thinks, and if you've got a good idea, he pushes it forward. And that's why
Megan
we've
Berry's
been
agenda
successful.
is probably a little different than Carl's, and we're going to see it as it unfolds. But so far, the people I've talked to is giving her a pretty high grade.
5 stars. She really has walked into the job just very, very comfortable. Seems very comfortable in her shoes. Very enjoying doing the things that mayors do, and letting her administration do the things, you know, that need to be done to run the city. I think she's did extremely well in selecting her cabinet.
Mike Kelly,
I think
appreciate very much you letting Bruce and Bob take over the Jimmy Kelly Restaurant and Steakhouse institution here in Nashville. That's the first show. This is an idea of what we're going to try to do. A little look behind, talk to some guests, talk to people who know the movers and shakers. We'd love to have your feedback. You can get me on Facebook or Twitter, Bob Mueller, WKRN. Bruce has got
Bruce.W@thenashvillebanner.com.
So please give us feedback. What would you like to see? What do you like? What do you don't like? And we'll try it again next week. I'm Bob Mueller with Bruce Dobie and Mike Kelly. Have a great one.